Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trap Chat Black History Month series, Doing Your Thing While Doing Their Thing. Kirsten, what are you talking about? We're going to get into it. Today, I am joined by a dynamic corporate leader, community leader, HBCU graduate, Birmingham native, AKA Link, junior league, all of the things, entrepreneur. We're going to get into that as well, both real estate and one of my favorite things, spirits, meaning champagne and wine. I am here joined by Shia Hendricks. Shia, can you give the folks an overview of who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Hey, Trap Recruiter family. Kirsten, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with everyone, and I love the topic more than anything because it's so real for so many of us. But to give a little bit about me, I've been in the CPG consumer product goods space for about 15 years now. Started in private label and now work for a branded cereal company, and I lead category management and insights on our Walmart and Sam's business. And I would say in addition to that, though, you mentioned some things. I have a couple of entrepreneurial endeavors as well. My co-founder and I started a wine brand in 2021, and we've got 3 varieties now. The brand is called J&H Estates. We're e-commerce only, and really having fun with that. In addition to that, I've gotten my feet wet in real estate and have some commercial real estate properties and looking to grow that. And then also just kind of maintaining my commitment to service and community involvement as well. So a little bit about me.
Yeah, so we're going to get into all of those things. And it was a lot. But so the first question, to stick on the theme is, how do you effectively balance doing all of that? Like, you have a real, like a major job working with major global companies.
Yeah.
And then like you have multiple entrepreneurial endeavors and you have your community-based involvement. So how do you balance doing your thing and doing their thing?
Yeah. So I will start by saying, like, as a geriatric millennial, very proudly, I will say, like, I have many friends and many people who are doing the same thing. Like, we're fueled by different things, so we give our time and our passion to different things. So in the spirit of that, whenever I'm asked about balance, I probably first do a little bit of a laugh because I don't think there is a balance. I think that every day I make a choice of what I'm going to do, what I can do, what I can't do. Win at some things, lose at others. But it's like when I look back over my week, when I look back over my year, was it successful? And so instead of saying, how do you balance it all? I have tried to develop a practice that says, am I operating in alignment with the things that matter to me and with my principles and priorities? And does it all make sense? And that has been an easier conversation for me to have with myself, and also helps me kind of maintain, if I had to say balance, because I know that I've delivered on what I'm passionate about first and foremost. And then everything else will just work itself out in the wash, to be honest. So.
And I'm sitting here looking at you, because we've been talking for about 30 minutes even backstage. And I'm like, she's on travel right now. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's all good. I mean, it's good. Yeah.
Including travel. What have been the most significant challenges you faced and the most fulfilling rewards you've gained when you're simultaneously, you say, we'll call it balancing your role as both a corporate leader and an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think, like, even before I started a business, I feel like my biggest challenges were figuring out, like, who I wanted to be, whether it was like at work, in my family, in my friend groups, just kind of developing that personal identity. I think it showed up at work more often because you spend most of your time there. And, you know, am I worthy of this role? Do I have what it takes? That imposter syndrome starts to perk up. And like, so some of those challenges are like very vivid for me because I remember the moment, like I remember when I realized in a job, when I realized I wasn't being paid appropriately. I also remember when I felt like I finally got an offer that was worth it. You know, like you remember those milestones either because they are like it etched in your mind or because you grew from it or because you know, or because maybe you didn't. It caused you to pivot, do something completely different. So, I mean, I think there are a number of things I could, go back in my mind and say were difficult or challenges, but I think ultimately with all those things, you learn from it. And then some of those things even can become some of those significant wins. Like when you think about the time you got an offer that was appropriate and you're like, man, I did that, like, or, you start a business and you're like, wow, I can balance these two things and I can find alignment in these opportunities. But I will say too, like, I've learned from it all. I probably learned more from the challenges than the successes, if you will, because the challenges, you feel the sting of those things for years to come, and it motivates you to not do those things or be in that place again. So like I learned more from bad managers than the great ones. So I won't say more than, but I remember the lessons a little bit better.
Ooh, I'm gonna take a pause right there because that was a profound statement. Learning more from the bad managers or learning more from those challenges than necessarily those quick wins, as I like to call them. Like I made my bed this morning.
Exactly. I mean, yes, that's great. Fantastic.
Quick win. My jewelry matches my sweatshirt. Quick win. But the day that I still went to work, when I hadn't slept all night and was dreading, had to sit in the car and call my homeboy to say, hey, listen, can you talk to me before I go in here? And, would give me that speech.
Hello.
And then I go in there, say a little word, whoop, whoop, hit it. That's I definitely feel you on that. Let's shift just a little bit because as I mentioned at the top of the show, you are a Birmingham native. It is Black History Month. So how has your influence, being a Birmingham native, and for those who don't know, Birmingham is in Alabama. If you just put in the Google Birmingham, you'll see a whole lot of things related to the civil rights movement. So do that for anyone who doesn't know. How has your upbringing been influenced, and as well as your career path and your commitment to social impact, community, being in community organizations, again, like the Junior League, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Links Incorporated, and then the 260 Change Fund?
Yeah. Well, as a true daughter of Birmingham, I actually moved. So I've moved a lot in my time outside of college, and recently moved back to Birmingham during the pandemic. And it's been so wonderful to be back. But to your question in terms of how does that shape you and the decisions you make? I mean, I'm a third generation entrepreneur, if you will. My fathers on both sides of my family my grandfathers on both sides were entrepreneurs. My parents are. And now my generation of family members are starting their ventures. And so I say all that to say, back then, my grandfather, my dad's father, and his brothers and sisters were super involved in the civil rights movement. So being connected to community is very personal, spiritual, all the things, deeply rooted in my family. And I think it's also why I chose business as a profession, why I chose to join different organizations and find that connection to deeper meaning. Because again, when you do multiple things, that alignment becomes important. And so it shaped how I see myself and how I see the world and what choices I make and how I work with people and how people meet and work with me. And I think there's a level of authenticity that you feel when you're rooted in your home and your family that gives you a sense of confidence that you can go out into the world and do what you want to do your way because you got people, your tribe, who's on the phone with you in the car when you're going into a meeting. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And they're like, you got to do this. You can do this. Like, your height team. And so it's great to have friends, but it's great to also be able to rely on your family for that support too. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to stay in your community involvement in Birmingham for just a bit. You're currently serving on the city's zoning board of adjustment. How do you see urban development intersecting with community needs? And what role do you play in ensuring equitable growth and development in your city?
Well, I mean, I think urban planning done well, city planning when done well, is centered around the needs of the people who live in the community. And the more you have those people, that very diverse group of people involved in the process, the better the result is. The more like positive questions and considerations get included into the plan. I will say, so I'm on the zoning board in Birmingham, but even before that, when I lived in Nashville, I was on a board that had a component to it that was all about equitable and affordable housing. And in a city like Nashville and even Birmingham and cities all over, right? Like the cost of living is going up at a faster rate than income.
Absolutely.
So that creates its own dynamic, but being a part of the process, I've learned so much about how to work within it, challenge it, but also like most of this is about sharing information and ensuring that the community understands what to do when, how to advocate for themselves, and what's going on, like keeping your footprint on what's happening around you. And as I will say I still qualify as a young professional. But
yes, you are.
as a young professional coming into the space and getting into real estate, man, I mean, just understanding the terminology alone, understanding the people, the structure, and what it takes, what it means when they say a new development is coming to town, what those conversations entail is so important. But, I think the beginning of the question was like, how important is it in urban planning to understand the community's needs? And like, to me, that's where it starts.
Yeah. And you actually have one of your entrepreneurial ventures is, real estate investment, where you're focusing on acquiring and developing innovative working spaces for central city communities. And another venture, which is probably my favorite, because I don't live in the South, and I don't get the benefit of all of your hard work, but it's JH Estates.
Yes.
Wine brand. What drove you to enter the wine industry during the pandemic in 2021? And, so far, what lessons have you learned from that experience?
Yes. I love this question because when people ask me, like, how did you start a wine brand? Like, what was the thought process behind that? And I say it with so much like excitement. I started this brand with my friend. So my co-founder, Ashley James, is a internationally recognized chef and entrepreneur in her own right. And then I come in with kind of a consumer product goods background. And this all started over a conversation with wine. I called her one morning and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this. What would you think about, starting a wine brand? I feel like we spend a lot of money on wine and I think we could do something ourselves. And she's like, well, say less. I'm going to Napa in 3 weeks. And if you can get a flight, we can, just put some feelers out there and see if this is something that we want to do. So I booked the flight and we had a wonderful trip in Napa. And 90 days later, we soft launched. And we have 3 varieties now, a year and a half, almost 2 years later, and are still growing. It's super important to us to not only have our wine and it be our investment, but we also have a separate portion of our company that is focused around, that's the James-Hendricks portion that really is focused on creating opportunities for others to create their own brands as well. So we have a couple of clients who have launched their wine labels.
That's awesome.
And that's been just as rewarding.
So I have to catch up because I have only had the rosé so far. I actually took it home for Thanksgiving. I guess when it was first available. I think that was 2021. That feels so. It feels like it was last week, though.
Time is so relative. I'm like, what day is it? What time is it?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to. So in addition to the rosé, what other? You said you have 3. Vintages now. So can you?
We have a Cabernet, and we also have our this particular grape to bottle Chardonnay that we picked from the lot where the grapes were grown all the way through. So that one's also very special. That's our Chardonnay.
All right, so I'm going to have to purchase both when we're done with our conversation. You just gave a wonderful segue into my next question. What are please share some insights into the importance of mentorship in your journey, because you have talked about that in your bio as well. And how do you pay it forward by mentoring others, especially within underrepresented or historically excluded communities?
Yeah. I think mentorship is so important. And people always say your personal board of directors, and how you have a group of people that have different roles in your life that advocate for you to make it possible for you to be where you are. I certainly benefited from that, continue to, but then it's also important to be a part of someone else's personal board of directors and share what you've learned with them. And I think in corporate spaces, it's very formal. I have an assigned mentee and I have an assigned mentor, and that, it's a very standard process. But I think outside of that, different organizations like sororities and links and junior league create an opportunity for you to do this, like peer-to-peer mentoring or intergenerational mentoring in a way that can be even more impactful, because it isn't formal necessarily. And you get ways to, a couple weeks ago, I went to a local high school to make a donation drop off for a closet that some student leaders had started. And it was like the middle of my workday. I had blocked off my calendar. I was like, do I have time to do this? I don't really know. Go to the school, and I'm just walking with these 2 students. I think they're juniors, and it made my day. They helped me. They were talking about how excited they were to open up this closet for their students and their friends. And, they had put so much work into it, and I was like, where do you all want to go to college? And they're like, we're still thinking about it. It was just a very natural way to connect and to share. They gave me more than they probably even realized, just because I was able to kind of disconnect and then share with them as they wanted. And, I think those are the moments that are the organic, quiet moments, which you don't expect, but just because you're there and you said okay to doing something, that mean the most.
I love that. And I love how you framed it as intergenerational mentoring, and that it doesn't have to be a formal thing. It can be, like you said, happenstance. A great one, by the way, that you had decided you were going to do a specific thing, and then you came out with an even greater reward just by, I always say, the hand that's open to give is open to receive. And I love that. And, if you have any information at the end of the show, if you want to share, if the closet's still available, maybe there are other people who can make donations to help these young ladies out. All right. So last question in our main portion, and I love this, and this is why I saved it for last. Your philosophy on service is encapsulated by a Marion Wright Edelman quote: "Service is the rent we pay for being. It is the very purpose of life." How do you incorporate this philosophy into your daily life, both personally and professionally?
For me, it like very simply incorporates everything. Like for me to keep all ships afloat, I'm rooted in the fact that service is at the core. Whether that's in your job, like serving others or serving a purpose, or in your community involvement or in entrepreneurial endeavors. Like that's my baseline for alignment. Am I fulfilling that need within myself? And so I love that quote, but I'm also a quotes person. So I have a ton of quotes that I love, but that one, I think for me, if you were to say like what sums you up in one, that does it. It's the rent we pay for sure. And to the point we talked earlier about getting more and, receiving more than you give. To me, I think if you have a servant-led mindset, you're always get more than you give. And you always find the value in the effort that you're bringing, because you have the right mindset going into it.
I love that. I love that. So it is time for my favorite part. Well, my second favorite part. I love getting to know folks better and hearing their stories, especially as they relate to their careers and their community service work. But it's time for the rapid fire, and it's the Black History Month edition. So these are going to be a little bit different. Thinking about a cherished memory or tradition, how you and your family celebrated Black History Month. How did it shape your understanding and appreciation of Black history and culture? And how have your celebrations evolved over the years?
Well, so growing up, this is not necessarily a Black History Month specific, but we always celebrated Kwanzaa, and that was like a principle in our family over the years. So I celebrated a little bit differently this year. I mean, in this stage in my life, but as it relates to Black History Month specifically, taking time like during that month to remember your history and also those that inspire you is just kind of a part of how we've always honored the month, but it's not intentional because we honor that all year. I think most of us do, right? Like Black History Month is for other people. We celebrate our history all year round, and it's in everything that we do. So isolating one tradition is hard, but I think there's many moments throughout our year where we kind of recognize.
I love that. 365, or this year 66.
That's it.
Yes, extra year. We get an extra day. What Black historical figure gives you a glimpse of yourself besides your mama?
Very true.
Shout out to Miss Gay now. Hey.
Yes. It is so hard to pick one, but because like I said, I'm a quotes person, I have to say it would be Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, and Zora Neale Hurston. And I say Zora Neale Hurston because my favorite quote of all time is from Their Eyes Were Watching God. And it's, there are years to ask questions and there are years to answer them. And I just love, she is my spirit animal for that, if nothing else. Because that's life.
I see you shouting out your sorority sisters. The best time. No, I'm always going to tease you. I'm always going to tease you. And it's in love. It's in love. But I do want to say this. This. A lot of people make fun of people who are in sororities today. Like it's not as important as it was when, as you called yourself. And I'm not, no shade throwing at you because I'm a young Gen Xer. But you said you're a geriatric millennial.
Raised by baby boomers.
Yes. Yes, raised by a serious baby boomer. But it's not as much. But I remember this is my first time knowing that, I was doing relationships the
Mhm.
right way and that it all wasn't lost. Because it was during a time when I was kind of like the younger millennials. I was like, they're like it's a wrap. Like we don't have no connection to them anymore. But one of my good friends, his daughter was going to Spelman,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and she was interested in your sorority, and I just sent you a message, and I didn't even like check back or anything like that. But you took care of it. Like you took care of whatever it was that she had to talk to you about. You took care of it. And the reason that I knew is because her father was like, here's the thing. And then I came back and thanked you. But I've always thought about that. I was like, I reached out to her as someone that had only met her a few times through
Mm-hmm.
another mutual friend, and she did like one of the biggest solids that you could think of. And I just think that that's a reflection of the way that you were brought up, the community that surrounded you, the family that surrounded you. I'm getting a little filled up because I'm thinking about Miss Carolyn,
Yeah.
Your auntie. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, like I'm just so
Mhm.
grateful for the way that our parents, had surrounded us with community members and other parents and other
Yes.
friends, other cousins and things that could
Yes.
and
And
that could help us.
activities and
And
things.
activities.
And
Yeah.
like, I'm so glad you said that though, because I think that there is so much aside from family, equally like the HBCU family, if you're in a sorority, your sorority family, your other organizations, Black organizations like Links, like Boule, whatever those things are, create a community and a network that you can very actively work within. And that's a piece too in this whole mentorship conversation. Community and your network is so important for times like that. I mean, little things. It could be as big as I have a job interview at a company and you're there, but it can be as small as I'm coming to Florida and I have to find a hairdresser and I need someone that I could find.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a reflection of your community, your network.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Whew. So I got a little filled up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't even know what it was.
Because
Like
of our families, we had a connection.
it just
Absolutely.
started it just started speaking to me right there. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I don't know why she came to my mind right then.
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe you were channeling something.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't
So
know.
yes.
Whew. All right. We gotta move forward for the audience. Who's a lesser known historical figure like me, or a contemporary Black leader who's inspired you, and we should learn more about them?
I could name so many women in my family,
Do it.
like Aunt Carolyn, like my Aunt Lola, who was very active, like women in the civil rights movement. Most are unknown, unsung, if you will, but very active in the civil rights movement. And images of her and others are I talk all the time about like how blessed within families, mine specifically, where we have these really strong female women archetypes in our family. Like you can look back on very different charted their own past back in the early 1900s when that was not a thing.
Yeah.
Like the strength of those women and over time and how that is evident in who we are as women and who we can be as women is huge. So I say like that all of us have that unsung person in our family who is why we are who we are, or a part of why we are who we are. So all of them.
All right, great. Are there any books, films, or artworks related to Black history that you would recommend for listeners seeking a deeper understanding? Because, like you said, this is not necessarily for those of us who celebrate 365 plus one, but for other people to learn more.
I will say this. There is a book I'm reading.
Okay.
And it's not even specific to Black history. Hold on, I gotta pull it up. But it has been really good, uh, good reading. It's called Our Separate Ways.
Mm.
It's called Our Separate Ways, Black and White Women and the Struggle for Professional Identity. It's not Black
Ooh.
history, but it's been really good for those of us who do work in corporate still or completely to kind of think about that identity piece. So I
Mm.
share that one. I mean, there are tons of great classics to read in the list of Black history, but that's one I am actively reading and actively applying.
Who's the
So
author or authors?
yes. Ella, hold on. Ella.
Ooh. Okay, we had a little technical difficulty, but we're back. The author of Our Separate Ways is.
Yes, it's Ella Edmondson Bell and Stella Nkomo.
Okay. All right, great.
And I have to give a shout out for one more book. It's called
Yes.
The Necessary Journey, and it's
Okay.
written by a friend, one of my line sisters, Dr.
Oh,
Ella Washington, and it's a book about making real progress in equity. So I just encourage the read for everyone.
thank you. I've got two things I need to look up as soon as well, actually, I'm like six now. Things I need to look up. I'm surprised. I'm going to touch back on you. I know we've been focused a lot on women, but this is all inclusive. I'm surprised you didn't mention your twin as a Black history. Like, ma'am,
Yes.
come on.
Well, in what way? I mean, it could be either one.
The arts. I mean,
True.
yes.
Yep. So I have a twin brother.
Yes.
He founded Vox Futura, which is it's a classical fusion and soul integration uh, uh, um, group
Yes.
of five. And so he too, in his own way, starting his entrepreneurial path, and I'm super proud of him. Again, it's called Vox Futura.
Yes. And
Yeah.
are they touring right now?
They are touring right now. They do a lot of shows on different cruise ships, but also tour around the U.S.
Nice.
As well.
Nice. Okay. All right, let's take it back. Okay. Ooh, so this is how I found out about your brother through social media. So, how do you think social media has influenced the documentation and the dissemination of Black history and culture?
Oh, I think it's made it more accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, you can literally find out anything on TikTok or social media these days. So, I mean, it's available. I mean, I think you have to have some more discernment around the truth, but it's certainly a good place to just learn and have knowledge at your fingertips.
Okay. What's one way that individuals or communities can actively, and I stress this, actively participate in honoring and preserving Black history beyond February 29th or February 28th on a regular non-leap year?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. What's one way that individuals and communities can actively participate in honoring and preserving Black history beyond the month of February? So,
Yeah.
what do we do when it's not February and we still want to honor and preserve Black history and Black culture?
Talk about it. Bring it up in every meeting, every time it comes to your mind. Share your story, share your history, and what you know of others.
I love that.
It's never there is never a time. If it's in your spirit, do it.
I love it. So we're back on the questions I like to ask everybody. If you wrote a book describing your career so far, what would the title be?
I'll just say the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay.
Done is better than perfect.
Now, I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Because that
I
is,
tell myself that all the time. Because, you always want things to be perfect, but sometimes just getting it done is fine. It's enough.
listen, that's how I am operating all 2024, the end of 2023 as well. I said, you know what? Perfectionism is a trauma response to
Yeah,
whatever you're dealing with. Move on, just get it completed.
that's it.
I love that. So we should be looking for that in what, the spring of
Spring of
2025?
2025.
Yes, 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 yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. And we'll have you back to talk about it. What is your go-to songs, or music genre when you want to hype yourself up to conquer the day?
Beyonce. Insert song.
Insert song. Okay. Do you
Um,
like the new country songs?
I do.
You
I'm
do.
ready. I'm getting my attire ready for whatever she's doing. um, if I need to be hyped to go into my day, yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a go-to.
Okay. You just Beyonce playlist.
An Outcast song here or there. Totally
Oh.
get
Okay.
into that.
All
Yeah.
right. This is one of my favorite questions. What's the best piece of career advice you never took or that you took later in your career?
Um, I had a mentor once when I was thinking about an offer, and she told me, she said, it was all about like, how do you negotiate the best offer? And she's like, are you happy with the offer that you got? And I was like, not really. It's not bad, but it's not really what I think I want. And she said, go back and ask for what you want. They've already offered you the job.
Wow.
If they didn't want you, then they wouldn't have offered you the job. So all you have absolutely nothing to lose in going back and saying, I thank you, I want this. And they have two options. They can either tell you, no, that's not something we can do, or yes, it is. And either way, you're going to have the answer. And in that particular role, I didn't go back, but two jobs later, I
Oh,
did.
okay.
It worked. I didn't get 100% of what I was asking for, but I got more than I would have had. And it was like such a freeing thing. Because I think sometimes we get in our own head and we're like, well, we should just be grateful for what the offer. And it's like, no, you have agency yourself, and you should use it. And the worst that you could be told is no. And rarely does that really, usually it's better than what you had.
No, ain't that bad.
Right.
No gets you to what I call the next opportunity. Thank
Yes.
you. Let's move on. And I love the way that you frame that. A lot of times we only discuss, the best outcome. But you
Yes.
said, you know what, she told you, you went to someone for advice. They gave you the advice. It was timely then. Like, we'll never know what would have happened. But you said, you know what, I didn't take that advice till 2 more times after that. And I got what I wanted. So I love that you shared that authentically and transparently, because I think a lot of times we'll just say, I was told this and I got what I wanted.
Right.
I got what I wanted.
It wasn't like that for me.
Yeah. So as a hard-headed person, as they say, and I mean to the day, I will tell you that I make a lot of mistakes, but thanks to the intergenerational mentorship of people like yourself, I am able to move forward. So I'm sad we are at the end of the question and answer period, and I want to give you some time to hype yourself up, talk about any upcoming projects or initiatives that you're excited about, that you want people to support. Once again, shout out your co-founder, Ashley, as well as your brand, James-Hendricks Enterprises and JH Estates, where people can find you, where they can purchase, where they can support, all that good stuff.
Please, engage with J&H Estates on social media. Our website is www.jh-estates.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all the things. In terms of projects, I'm really focusing on what I've got right now and just kind of maintaining those things, but more to come in the wine space that I'm really excited about. And yeah, support Vox Futura as well, VOXFORTURA. Yeah, those are things I'm passionate about.
All right. Thank you so much, Shia, for taking time out of your, and I do not say this lightly, busy schedule to lend your time, your insights, and your Black history to Trap Chat. We appreciate you. We are going to continue to support you. And
Thank
to the
you.
audience, we will see you on the next very special episode of Trap Chat Black History Series, doing your thing while doing their thing. Come back.